Hello there. Please come on in. Welcome to the Fursona shop. How can I help you today? You seem a bit nervous. Are you alright? Oh, well, I'm so sorry. If you want to just be by yourself and sort of browse around the shop, look at all the different fursuits, sort of come to terms with who you are, I'm more than happy to just sort of wait around until you're ready. Okay, you're a bit concerned, you seem a bit new to the situation. Okay, well, I can totally help you, I haven't been here for very long, I was hired here. I'm not much of a furry myself. Mostly, I look at it with a little bit of disdain and confusion from far away. But I needed a little bit of money, so I applied. They hired me, and my natural charisma, sort of, I can get any job I want. So, but I see that you are here, which means that you are potentially thinking about being a furry. Is that right? Don't deny it. I can see it. Okay. So, how about this? How about conversation, simple tasks that I need you to answer, simple questions that I need you to answer, and we can sort of get to know a little bit about you. Figure out what kind of fursona you might want, or whether you're a furry yourself, what is a furry, that sort of thing. Wonderful, wonderful. Well, yes, corporate did give me a little bit of a task list for me to do. So I will be going over the basics first here. So could I get your name? And might I suggest, you don't have to give me your real name. You could give me a name of your fursona, but I imagine you don't have a fursona. So you can give me your real name if you'd like, but if you're uncomfortable with that, you can totally give me a fake name. That's totally fine. In fact, we suggest that sort of thing. Okay, wonderful. So, okay. And could I get your age? We ask for age because you must be at least 18 years old. Personally, I think you need to be at least 21 or something, but, I think so long as you're 18 or above, it should be fine. Okay. And could I get your income bracket? Yes, of course we need that information. Furries are one of the most lucrative members of society, so you must be within a certain income bracket to even be considered a furry, because otherwise you're just a wannabe, and no one wants to be a wannabe, So here's the thing: you need to have money, because once you have a fursona, then you must, create a suit, you have to, go to conventions, meet up with people, take them out, that sort of thing. It all costs a lot of money, so, yes, so could I get your income bracket, just so that I know whether you are qualified to even become a furry? Absolutely. Okay, you're on the cusp, but I would say you're, with some proper budgeting, some very mindful spending, you should be able to absolutely be a top tier furry. So now, here's something that's actually pretty important. What is your sanity level, from 1 to 10? Yes, this is a very good question, because furries themselves, they are very stable creatures. They tend to not move psychologically. They're unbothered. So you kind of need a sanity level that's very high, to be very sane, very stable, and if you score very lowly within the sanity level scale, or if you score yourself very lowly in particular, that is a little bit of a red sign. Perhaps you shouldn't actually be a furry or anything like that, because there is a lot of ridicule, from me in particular, but from other people as well. And what will end up happening is that you will have to either shrug it off, you'll either have to take it in stride, you'll have to deal with it in some way, and being very sane is a very, very good skill to have. Okay, wonderful. Okay, now, this is not a pass-fail situation, but could I ask of your the status of your neurodivergency or your neurotypicalness. I only ask this because there are certain types of furries that are neurotypical and certain types of furries that are neurodivergent, and they tend to occupy different spheres within the furry world. So, for simple bookkeeping, to figure out where you would like to be placed, how would you categorize yourself? Wonderful, wonderful, alrighty. Okay, and then simply, could I get your address? Oh, well, we're not going to send you anything, but, we do end up having local meetups. We do, in our corporation, we do end up having a little bit of a sort of meetup night, and with your information, we do end up putting up different furries, fursonas, and if people are interested, they might hit you up. They might show up at your door or whatever, but it's nothing too intrusive. Okay, wonderful. This was just the basics. So let us discuss what is a furry, because I'm sure you're curious. That's why you're here, right? So a furry is actually very simple, right? It's a person that identifies themselves as a furry. Okay, here it is. It's a very nebulous concept. It's someone who's very interested in furry, activities. It's a community of people. And I would say that it's very much a commitment. If you commit yourself to being a furry, then you are a furry. That is your social life. That is what you spend your money on. That is what you, how you connect with people. That is, how you find, lovers. It's a very wide net. But I have to say, one of the key components of being a furry is having either like a fursuit or wanting to have a fursuit. I actually don't think that's necessarily true, but I think it is, because I think it's that is what most people think about. So I do have to warn you, being a furry is not necessarily sexual. It might be, it very well could be, and it very well is for a lot of people, but it's not necessarily sexual. It could just be that you enjoy, faffing about in a fursuit, and that's totally fine. So it's really up to you how much you want to engage with it, and then how you want to engage with it. I also want to say that you might be thinking, well, being a furry, it's a bit it's a bit like animal cruelty, isn't it? And I would say that it is not animal cruelty, because no animals are really involved. And if you've taken a look at a fursuit, I don't think any rational person looking at a fursuit would then confuse that fursuit for an actual animal. It's more like role play, I suppose. This is one of those things where I'm still learning myself. I've only started this job, last week, and so it's been a little bit of a, it's been very, very information heavy. So, and then lastly, I do want to mention that in terms of what is a furry is very welcoming. Because furries tend to be the social punching bags of any part of society, they're very, very welcoming. They're very happy to be addressed. They're very happy to be acknowledged. They're very happy to just simply exist. So long as they can do whatever they want with themselves, and it's all perfectly fine and dandy. So, with that, how do you feel? How do you feel about potentially being a furry? I understand. You're still a little bit concerned, but you're a little bit interested as well. All right, well, how about let's discuss some fursona options. So typically with a furry, you tend to have some fursona of some kind. It's the embodiment of who you are in furry form. Now, the name furry might imply that your fursona must be furry itself, and in reality it might be furry, right? The suit itself might have some fake fur. Furries are very animal conscious, and so they would never have any actual fur. It's fake. But Doesn't necessarily mean that your fursona must be a mammal. Those are one of the options, but you could be furry, you could be a mammal, but you could also be a reptile. You could also be avian in nature, and there is, of course, a fourth option. The fourth option is, it's sort of the black sheep of the furry community. I imagine that's at least what I've been told. But they're the aquatic furries, the fish and the whales and that sort of thing. I don't know very much, but I imagine that if you're very interested in the furry aspect, going in the fish route is a bit interesting. But if you are going to go with a mammal, some typical options that you have could be, let's see here, cats, tigers, otters. You could go panthers or, dogs, foxes, wolves. All these are very, very common options. Like I said before, none of these animals really look like the fursona, right? And you'll have a lot of options, especially if you pay someone to actually make your furry suit. You might be a tiger, but you might be a blue tiger with the white stripes, right? And a short snout with a pink nose, and that it barely really looks like a tiger, but you feel like a tiger, and so that's really what a furry is. I would also say that the income bracket thing really comes into play here, because if you're going to create a fursona suit, a furry suit, it's going to be upwards of thousands and thousands of either pounds or US dollars or Canadian dollars. It's really it gets expensive very quickly. Now, if you wanted to go for more of a reptile, persuasion, if you have a reptile, you want to be a reptile, you could of course go with more of the lizard option. Typical lizards, you could be a gecko or a just simply a house lizard, right? Or any of those kinds tend to be very, very, they're not popular, but they're not unpopular. You could also go for crocodiles, crocodiles or alligators. They're very, very popular. A very characteristic thing that furries tend to do is they tend to shorten the snout to make them friendlier. And so with crocodiles and alligators, you want to create the correct anatomical shape, but then squash it a little bit. It's very interesting. And of course, the third option is the avian persuasion. So you could go for a parrot, a toucan. You could also go for a pigeon. You could go for a dove, which is basically just a pigeon, but racist. You could also go with any type of bird. Penguin. Penguin is a very good avian. Ostrich. I don't think they're very popular now. But I've not seen many ostrich furries. I've only been here a week, but I've already seen many of these. So when it comes to the fursona options, those are your options. Now, if you wanted my personal opinion, all of these seem a bit radical to me, to be honest. But if you wanted to go classic, if you wanted to go, you don't want to stand out, you want to sort of be in the background, I would go with more of a mammal, right? A tiger, a panther. Those are a top tier classic wolf, top tier classic. You could go with different mammals, of course. A fox is classic, but perhaps a little bit less so. You could even go with very specific breeds, right? Like a fennec fox, right? And then you'd have really big ears or something. That would be a little bit like you were trying to stand out amongst a very crowded pool of people. Now, what I will say is that, if you're trying to look into this in a more, sexual nature, you might want to stand out, right? And so trying to go for the typical might be, it might have you blend in, but that might actually be a good thing, right? Because it might mean that there are already stereotypes about you that people will envision. And if I wanted to give my opinion on the reptiles, I would say that it's very hit or miss when it comes to, how people react to it. Most people are totally fine with it, of course. It's very welcoming. But I will say, not many people like the sort of scaly feel, and a lot of people really like the feel, right, of the fursuit and the feel of, being with another person in that fursuit. So, the type of person that might like the sort of scaly, cold fursuit might be different than the other kinds. Now, avian is actually I feel like it's sort of in the middle here, because feathers are soft, but they can be hard as well. And I think that they're different, but they're not too different. They're actually, I would say that they're intermediate. If you want to really get in the furry community, but you want to feel like an intermediate, you want to feel like, like you know what you're doing, then I would go with an avian Fursona, because simply, there is simply too many of the other options. But I will also say that when you commission your fursuit, feathers might be more difficult for the fursuit creator to make compared to fur, or compared to no fur with the scales. I would also say that are you following me? Hello? Yes, I know you're envisioning what that fursuit might be like. I have talked to a few furries now, and they all have this sort of glazed look on them whenever we get to this stage, and they start imagining all the different options. A classic furry. You are a furry, I can tell you that. So, we do have a list here of people, artists that we work with, here is what we suggest. Here's what I'll do for you. I don't normally do this, but I'm sort of getting a bearing on my job here. So, course of action for you, okay? Because simply, I've seen too many people come and go. A few people have only been here a week, but they've come and gone, and they simply feel overwhelmed, right? So, I want you to go home and figure out who your Fursona is. I want you to create characteristics for this Fursona. Big head, small head. Big snout, small snout. Color of fur, color pattern. Do they have a belly? What kind of build do they have? Claws, no claws. You can mix and match here. It's not set in stone. But once you get all of these characteristics, I'm going to need you to come back here, because then I will get you, and I'm writing this for you down. I'm going to get you an artist free of charge here, first time here. I will commission this artist to create an image of this Fursona for you. If it feels good, if it feels right, wonderful. That will be your standard. That will be the Fursona that you can look at and know that is what your Fursona looks like. Then you can go to our local warehouse. Now, it is down the road. It's a bit far away, but don't worry about that. It's going to be a bit expensive, but once you get there, you'll take that piece of commissioned artwork and you'll start working with them over a series of months in grueling tasks. They're going to bring a construction crew. There is going to be cement, hard hats are going to be involved, and you are going to create your own Fursona fursuit. That is going to really put you in the space, right? And so you'll be able to come to the store, you'll be able to go to conventions, you'll be able to really, go wherever you want as a furry. And one, you could be anonymous because you'll have a mask on, the fursuit. And two, you'll fit right in. It's brilliant. So it is going to take at least 6 to 8 months. That's if you take the, if you expedite it, with some extra payment. But like I said before, you do have some money, so you could. Oh, you have some savings. Well, color me surprised. Let us let me scratch this off instead. How about you just go directly to the warehouse and they will help you out. You don't need that commission anymore. Yes, it's a bit more risky because you might not like what you come up with, but corporate has told me that the more people I send to the warehouse, the more money I make. I wanted to be kind to you, but now that I know that you have money, it might actually be more helpful for me if you just go directly there and you have money to burn, right? And you are a furry. I mean, look at you. So, what are we doing here? And let's not punt around the subject. Wonderful, wonderful. Okay, well, I shall leave this here with you. You can take it to the warehouse. I've written the address for you, and tell them I sent you, alright? Yeah, my name is Basil, and you can totally tell them that I sent you, and they will know who I am. Yes, I've only been here a week, but I'm sure that they have some database of some kind. Wonderful, wonderful. Okay then, well, I hope you have a wonderful day. Enjoy your exploration into the furry world, the furry community. I would prefer if you didn't let me know how it goes, because the less information I have, the better, just for my own sake, simply because it's not something I'm particularly interested in. But there's no judgment here. There is plenty of judgment, but none outward. Okay, all right then. Well, have a good one. I will see you next time. Bye bye.